Hi, everybody, and welcome to our webinar. Just we're doing a quick sound check, maybe with my colleagues, if you can hear me. Angel, are you hearing me?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah, perfect.
Awesome.
Yes, I can.
Awesome. Perfect. And Frederick is also on. Frederick, can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you perfect.
Okay, and we also can hear you. Great. Awesome. So let us get started. And first of all, thanks for so many of you to have registered and to attend. This is our first, I think it's our first joint webinar with n8n. We've been a pretty big fan of n8n for a couple of years. So thanks for joining us, Angel. Really appreciate your time. So I'll let you introduce yourself a little later on when you speak after me. I'm here with Frederick. Frederick, he's going to take most of the time today to actually show how he built the solution with Baserow and n8n. We do that a lot at Baserow because, well, the solutions that we build for our clients actually require quite often an automation, and we like to use n8n. I'm going to explain a little bit why. My name is Olivier Mas. I'm one of the co-founders of Baserow. I run everything which is more on the commercial side of the house. So I'll be taking a few minutes just to set the scene. Angel, just to start with, congratulations on your funding round. I just saw that announced, so that's amazing. Really great recognition for what you guys have been building. So amazing to see it, and you guys must be very excited. And I think you will have a lot of work in the couple of months and years ahead. So congratulations on that.
Right.
Just a few practical things. If you have questions, if you have comments, so put that there's a question box that you can fill in. I'm going to try to answer as many questions along the way during the demo, and we'll make sure that we have some time to spend on the Q&A at the end of the session. So just quickly, in terms of setting the scene, maybe a bit of context, right? Because there's a lot of happening around automations, around no code. What we see within our clients is that there's basically two things which are driving that adoption. On the data side, whereby data is scattered still around multiple tools that people really want to start unifying. And when I'm talking data, I'm talking mostly hot data in our use case, which means data that you need to access frequently, that is operational data that needs to be accessed by people, that needs to be collaborative by nature. And that data used to be siloed, it's static, or used to be static, and it needs to come unified and get people on a collaborative platform. And then where manual work used to happen, that more and more becomes AI powered, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. So the data aspect is going to be a big portion of what the transformation is going on within our companies. And then the tools, I think what people used to do is buy tools, buy SaaS tools, have IT or developers build it. And tools used to take a long time to build, right? And these things are changing very rapidly, right? You really see that people go back to building tools, business gets more involved, and tools get built in a matter of days and weeks. And today is one of these solutions that we're going to show where Frederick maybe will explain a little bit how long it took him to build this. But we're far away from the traditional way of custom development, which is great because that means that more and more people will be able to build what they really need without having to have big budgets, a lot of time, and understanding how to do that from a technical perspective. I just wanted to also share how we fit with n8n for those who haven't worked with n8n. So Baserow, right, we basically are a platform to build databases, to build applications, and we connect to existing data sources, be it your tools, be it external data sources like spreadsheets, like Airtable, like CSV files. So that nicely connects into Baserow. Like I said, it's mostly hot data that people need to go and work on at the moment on a regular basis, daily, maybe hourly, weekly. And then we have interfaces, which is ways to interact with that data. It could be, we have a UI for the database whereby you can build all these interesting views, be it from grid, Kanban, calendar, time view, Gantt view, all these things that you need for your specific use case. But then also build specific apps on top of that if you don't want people to work in the database. And then we have an MCP server, which means that AI agents, which is something you can actually build in n8n, right? AI agents will be able to connect to Baserow and to perform work in Baserow, which we think is going to be more and more, right? Whereby it's going to be a mix of humans and agents, so that need to connect to a database. And then you have workflows, which we will show today, right? We have third-party integrations, and n8n, like I say, is one of the partner we work the most with. We'll have our own native automations, but they'll be much more simple, right? For simple use cases, and the automation builder and agent builder of n8n, because that's what n8n really focus on, is going to be for more elaborate automations. Then we have deployment options, be it on the cloud with GDPR compliance, HIPAA, SOC compliance, self-hosted, and then managed private instances, right? And so the solution from today is going to be built with Baserow database builder, application builder, and then the automation builder of n8n, right? I actually don't recall, Frederick, if you build some AI capabilities in here, but I'll let you explain that when it's your turn. Why Baserow and n8n? The main reason that our clients use n8n and prefer n8n in the automations together with Baserow is also because n8n is an open source platform. It's also available as SaaS and on-premise. And most of our deployments we've done on-premise, because that means you have a Docker image for Baserow, you have a Docker image for n8n. You can really have that same stringent data governance, compliance, security, some of these things run in air-gapped environment. And that's really also one of the reasons, and maybe the main reason, why clients choose for Baserow instead of other SaaS tools that are out there. Plus, user experience is great. Its interoperability is great, just like what we have in Baserow. So it felt like a very natural fit, and then so that's why we've been working with n8n for the last couple of years successfully, and our clients are happy with that. Where will you be able to find it if it's interesting? So after this webinar, we have a community forum. For those who don't know it, we're on X, we're on LinkedIn, we're on Reddit. So go and find us if anything that you've seen today is interesting. I'm not going to spend too much time now. I'm going to go and answer most of the questions that you have during the webinar, but feel free, if after this webinar you have a project, you have an initiative. We actually do offer some services, and our partners have some services related to Baserow implementation together with n8n. So feel free to reach out and we will help you. So without further ado, what I'm going to do, Angel, I'm going to hand it over to you, right? So you can explain a bit maybe what n8n is, where you're at in the journey, maybe your role, and then we'll go straight into the meet with Frederick.
Perfect. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Excellent. Well, good. Well, my name is Angel. I'm the staff developer advocate at n8n. So a big part of my day-to-day is either creating content or working with partners like yourself to create content to help make our customers' lives a little bit easier, specifically our enterprise customers' lives easier when it comes to integrating n8n within their platforms. So you can think of n8n as a low-code, no-code builder. So you can kind of start visual, but you're not boxed in. You can use things like JavaScript, Python, curl to enable the platform to be able to not just create AI agents, but also to create very easy to deploy automations. You can self-host it, I believe, that was already mentioned, but that's one of the things that we've seen. A large percentage of our enterprise customers currently self-host because of those needs for privacy and the ability to integrate deep within their pipeline. Additionally, you're able to use n8n to manage credentials. So it allows you to store and manage many of your team's API credentials in a singular place. You can then use the built-in credential sharing feature in order to grant access to your coworkers to that API. And it's also AI ready. So essentially, there's native support for models like OpenAI's, Anthropic's, Hugging Face, Gemini, you name it. And then the platform works very well, with APIs. That was kind of the original use case of the platform, is being able to connect different APIs together. So when you work with, platforms like Baserow, it really expands the ability of the platform, because you're able to essentially power it up, is kind of how I like to think of it. You're able to power up the platform using APIs of other tools like Baserow to do things you wouldn't be able to do by yourself. So does that kind of answer the question more or less?
Yes, absolutely. Maybe with the recent funding announcement, which is a pretty substantial amount, right? So 180 million. Do you have already a bit of the view in the future where you're evolving towards?
I mean, as far as like as an organization, I mean, I think it's definitely fluid. I think one of the cool things about working in N8N is the fact that we have a lot of tools and automations in place to listen to our community, essentially. So we're able to kind of put our feelers out, understand kind of what the community is looking for. And I think where we've been successful is avoiding hype bubbles and essentially focusing on standards. Standards like the integration of like LangChain within N8N to power a lot of our AI agents, or even one like curl within the HTTP request node to enable, easy use of documentation to be able to connect to third-party APIs. So I'm not sure I know where the company is headed, because again, I think a lot of it is determined by the community itself. But I think wherever it is, it's going to be around standards. I think that we're going to continue to kind of follow in that ethos, making sure that we're using standards as a way to kind of bridge the gap between what platforms are able to do and kind of what your imagination is able to come up with. So.
Great, thanks, Angel. All right, so what we're going to do, Frederick, why don't we go straight into what you've built, right? So we had a discussion in preparation of this webinar about, okay, what would actually be useful, right? And what is standard operating procedures and things like that. So, right, Frederick, you're going to cover some of that before you go into the database. So handing over to you, Frederick, and then we'll have the questions afterwards. Feel free to post them in the chat meanwhile.
Yeah, hello. So before we get started, pretty quickly about standard operating procedures, or SOPs. Actually, they are just a set of guidelines or instructions that you set up as an organization to perform daily, weekly, or routine tasks. A nice example is like employee onboarding or reimbursement of expenses. Like you go on a trip for your company and you need to book a hotel, you pay for the hotel in advance, and then you want to reimburse that expense. In a large organization, you have a clear procedure for that. First of all, you have to fill in a form, you have to submit the invoice, someone has to review it, approve it, and then the money gets on your account. That's an example of such a standard procedure. Another one is employee onboarding. Step 1, contracts needs to be signed. Step 2, he needs his account for the company. Step 3, the desk must be in place, and so on. And having those procedures, well, there are clearly benefits, being quality, efficiency, and compliance. If you have a clear procedure for everything, it saves times, it reduces errors, you have clear ownership for cases, and so on. It also comes with a number of challenges. So once you have a procedure, one of the challenges is keep them up to date and don't make obsoleted versions so that everyone knows which procedure to follow. Also avoid the manual assignment. If you have some manual assignment, then at a certain time, no one is assigned to a task and the task is simply not performed. And also the feedback. If a procedure is not working and employees are mentioning it 20 times a day to you, it gets lost in all the other things you're doing through the day. So you need a way to track the feedback and process that feedback into a better procedure. And this is what we are going to do today. I built a solution involving both Baserow and N8N to handle those standard operating procedures. So first of all, let's have a look at the database schema. I have a table with staff members. Staff members are working at a certain department in my organization, for example, IT, HR, legal department, marketing, and so on. And I have a number of procedures. For example, the employee onboarding, a procedure can be tied to a department, but it's not always the case. For example, I also have a procedure taking notes during a meeting and publish those notes. That can apply to any department. So that's not specific for one, but a procedure that involves having a daily backup of the entire IT system, that's very specific for a single department, for the IT department. Each procedure has multiple steps. Like I said, for the reimbursement, you have to fill in the form, you have to upload the invoice, it has to be reviewed. Those are all procedure steps. And those steps are translated into tasks. So this is where my blueprint, my procedure step, becomes a task where a person is assigned to it and it has a deadline. And I want to have suggestions for improvement. And this is also stored in a separate table based on the feedback offered by my staff members. So let's have a look at the database itself. Everything I'm showing today is available as a template. So for Baserow, I can say add new from template. And if I search SOP or standard operating procedures, we even made it a very popular template. I have the template over here and I can install it. But I already have pre-installed it here. So I have my database, like I mentioned, with the staff members, departments, procedures. So I have 10 procedures. For example, purchase orders approval. It's one on an explicit request for the finance department, and it has a number of steps. Number of steps is in a separate table. For example, my procedure for handling customer complaints. So step 1 is I want to log it. Step 2 is sending acknowledgements to the customer. We heard your complaint. Assign it to a department. Step 4, investigate it. Step 5, communicate a solution. And what I have here is days to complete. So the first 3 steps need to happen in the first day. If a customer sends in a complaint, the first day I need to log it, send the acknowledgement, and assign the department. And then I have 5 days to investigate the issue and 10 days to communicate to the customer. And this is information I will be using to schedule the task. Also, some task has a default assignee. For the expenses here, Leroy, for example, well, he's the manager that is doing the review, and Elizabeth is the accountant that is recording the approval and does the actual payment. So I can also have a default note, and then they are translated into tasks. I have a number of tasks here with a deadline, and notice that no deadline is on a Saturday or Sunday. That's an additional thing I did with the automation, ensuring that nothing is scheduled on weekends. I have someone assigned to it, I have a status, I have feedback, and I have processed feedback. Here I have my suggestions for improvement. It's empty, and that's an AI agent taking care of it. It takes a while to run it, so let's run it now and have a look at the results in a moment. So I have my automation here. It's also a template. So I'm starting my automation. I let it go through my AI agent, and at the end, it will create a number of records in my database. So as you see, it takes a while. It uses all kinds of tools I provided. It processes my request, and ultimately it will continue here. I come back to that in a minute. Maybe first having a look at the application I created for it. Let's log out. So this is the Baserow application. I'm going to authenticate as being Ali. I sign in. Let's go to the home page, and those are all my procedures. So for example, Ali wants her money back. So reimbursement of an expense, I go to the details, and I see all the steps here. So I need to complete the form, attach the receipts, there's a review, and for the review, you see, okay, I have a default assignee, and then I have Elizabeth doing the final payment. So let's say expenses for my business trip, and I'm going to schedule it a bit in the future. add to my schedule. What happens now is a webhook that I trigger from Baserow. It triggered an n8n automation. And if I have a look here at my task table, I see that the expenses for my business trip, I have created 5 records, some of them assigned to Elizabeth, others assigned to Ali, who made the request. And you can see that some tasks have been moved from the Sunday to the next Monday. So my tasks are scheduled, and let's have a look. Do I have improvement suggestions? Not yet. Takes a really long time to process, but okay. Let's just have it a go. We'll come back to it later. So this was a first demo, or this was the demo of my solution. Let's go to step-by-step building the automation. So first of all, from n8n, I have my task generation that was up and running, but I'm going to create it again. So I create a new workflow, but I'm not going to bother you starting all from the top. I've created 3 nice templates in n8n, and thank you to the n8n team for approving them so quickly. So they are available for you. I click templates, I search for Baserow with task, and I have one single result being automated task generation from a blueprint with the weekend-aware scheduling. It's available for free, so I'm going to use it. And we already mentioned that you can have self-hosting for n8n and for Baserow. Well, actually, everything I'm showing here is self-hosted. So I'm going to import it into my self-hosted instance running on this port number. First thing I need to do is offering the Baserow credentials. So that's my API account. Let's continue. And it has set up my automation. This is all the information, all the documentation, how you can use it. So let's set it up step by step. The first thing I have here is my webhook. So if the webhook is triggered, the automation will start. And the way I trigger my webhook is here from my application. In my details page, I attach an event to the button, and I send an HTTP request to this endpoint to create tasks from template. And I'm passing some JSON in the body of my post request, passing the assignee is the authenticated user, the template ID is my procedure, the note is a note I filled in, and the schedule date is the date field. So in n8n, let's close this one and this one. In n8n, let's just fake this. So I open my webhook node, and instead of listening for an event and going all the way forward and back from Baserow to n8n, let's save us some time, and I'm going to pin some output here. So let's go to my notes, and I'm going to copy paste what is actually coming from this webhook. So I have my assignee with the ID 146, template ID is 37, is the employee onboarding procedure. We're going to onboard Michael Scott, and we're going to start doing it on the 28th of October. Okay, let's save it. Because it's a template, I use the set node for some configuration. So I want to have a high flexibility of my table IDs, my field IDs, and so on. And I do the configuration of this entire thing in my settings. But first of all, Baserow self-hosted. If you're working on SaaS, the API host, you can keep it on api.baserow.io. But I'm running on a local instance, so I need to change this. And I'm going to change it to backend running on port 8000. My token, I'm not going to fill in my token. I'm not very comfortable in a webinar sharing my token, so I'm going to use something different. My database ID, well, if I go to Baserow, I click here, I see the ID of my database. I also need table IDs, it's over here, and I need a field ID, it's over here. So if you click the 3 dots somewhere in Baserow, you always see the IDs. So let's fill in my database ID. Next one is the procedure details, 4604. Then my linked field. And finally, I have my task table with 4605. My assignee is coming from the webhook, same as schedule date and my node. So if I execute this step, let's have a look at the JSON. All my settings have been done. Okay, next, I want to get all the template steps. And this is a Baserow node, native Baserow node inside n8n, where I select my account. And instead of offering a database name, I just refer to my database ID. Same for the table. I want to have all the template steps of the employee onboarding. And the filter is, well, on my link field, I must have this template ID. So if I execute the step, I see that there are 5 steps. Step 1, sign and store the contract. Step 2 is, let's have a look here. Step 2, yep, enter the employee data in the HR system. Step 3 is create IT accounts, and so on. So actually what we have, if I search for the employee onboarding, I have those 5 records selected. And the link to table field I was talking about, it's hidden here. It's the link to the procedure. Okay, so I have my fields. Next, I'm going to calculate the deadlines for each step, because the blueprint table, it doesn't offer me any information about the deadline. It just says this needs to happen on day 1. You have 5 days for it. So I'm going to calculate the deadlines. Well, procedure step, it's my JSON ID. The deadline, I create a date from the text time was passing from my scheduled date. And then I use the plus function. So how did I come up with the plus function? To be very straight and very honest, well, Angel told me about it, that I had a plus function. How could I find it? There's a very nice feature in the n8n docs. It's here on top, chat with the docs. And I can simply set the question here. I have a text in the format of 4 times the year, followed by 2 times the month and day. And I want to add a number of days to it. So let's give it a try. I'm chatting with the n8n documentation right now, and it come up with the fact that there should be something like a plus function. Yep. So here we go. I have my date. I can use the plus function. I convert it to an ISO date, which is this exact format. There are also links to formatting a date to the information. So really very helpful function chatting with the documentation.
Yeah, I need to use it more.
Yeah, well, it was really helpful during developing those templates.
Good.
So yeah, yeah, I have my text. I add a number of days to it, and I format it again as an ISO date. The assignee, yep, pretty straightforward. However, I'm not very happy with it. I did this in the template, but it excludes one scenario. Here, I assume that the people who triggered the request is always the assignee. But as I showed before, certain steps like making the actual payment is done by Elizabeth. So if there's a default assignee over here, so let's have a look. So for this step, for example, signing the contract, the head of HR is in charge here. So that's Michael. The second step, entering the data into the system, there's no default assignee, so it's the person triggering the task. So I need to use an if statement here, but I don't want to waste a lot of time typing and making typos. So I'm going to quickly copy paste this, and using an if statement here, I say if there's no default assignee, well, pick the one from my webhook. Otherwise, pick the one that is available in my database. Okay, so let's execute this, and it shows me now that I have 5 items. And you see my deadlines, the 28th, the 30th, 31. Ouch, I have here the 2nd of November, and the 2nd of November is on Sunday. And I definitely don't want to have deadlines on Sunday. I want the deadlines to be on Monday. So this is why I added an additional note here. It's called avoid scheduling during the weekend. And yeah, don't run away, don't log off. It's JavaScript, but I didn't come up with it myself. What I did is very simple, ChatGPT saying, hey, I want a JavaScript function. I get a date in ISO format. If it's a Saturday, a Sunday, please move it to the next Monday. And it offers me this function. I can copy it. I paste it over here. I loop over all my items, and I use this function. So, yeah, a little bit of code, but the result is that the 2nd of November has been moved to the 3rd of November. So we moved the deadline to the next Monday. And then I'm ready to aggregate it. And Angel, you also offered me the hint for the aggregation because I was doing lots of weird stuff with the code node. But can you quickly explain the aggregation node, how it works, what it's used for?
Yeah, yeah, I think so. So I find that the visual editor helps kind of explain the aggregate node somewhat a little bit easier than I could. If you could zoom in to that area between the code node and the aggregate node, you'll see that there are 5 items. So if we go ahead and zoom in right there between that code node and the aggregate, yeah, perfect. Okay, excellent. So we can see there are 5 items entering the aggregate node. What many people don't realize is that that number right there, 5 items, is the number of times that the next node is going to run. So for example, typically if I had the set node after the code node, it would run 5 times, just like we can kind of see in the step before this. But the aggregate node is special. What it does is it flattens down those 5 items into one item that has all of 5 of those inside of it. So that the next item, so as you can see after the aggregate node, it says one item. It is one item, but it contains all 5 of the previous ones so that we can then trigger a following node just one time. We don't want it to run 5 times, but it has all the data of those 5 runs. Does that kind of help explain it a little bit? And I'm trying to simplify it. If we talk more in terms of JSON, it makes a little bit more sense because essentially what we're doing is we're converting an array object or a list of objects into a single object that contains that list within it. So I find that if you understand JSON already, it makes a lot of sense because again, the goal of n8n here is basically JSON manipulation. We're trying to manipulate the JSON to a way that makes sense. And n8n handles array objects differently. It'll multiply the actions that you're taking across each of those array objects. So by aggregating, we can flatten it down to one object and only trigger the following nodes once. All right.
Yeah.
I hope that helps.
Okay. Yeah, great. So yeah, I think it's visually most, or it explains best here. From 5 items, I go to one item. So what I'm doing here, I have 5 records, and I don't want to enter them one by one into Baserow because those are 5 API calls.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah, you won't notice 5 separate API calls from one batch call, but let's say you want to do 100 elements, you don't want to do 100 separate API calls.
Exactly.
So I merge it into one and I call it items. And if I have a look here, this is the API, Baserow API documentation coming for every database. So for my task table, I want to create a row in batch mode. Well, it expects an array of items. So to continue with my automation, let's zoom out a little bit. I have my HTTP node here. So I'm doing a call to the Baserow API, and I can simply say, okay, all the items, just pick my items list. I'm going to execute it, and it's going to fail. And it's going to fail because of an authentication problem. because it says the provided token does not exist. And it's true, the token, your underscore token, does not exist. I can solve it with copy pasting the token in my settings, but what I prefer for making calls to the Baserow API is I'm not going to send separate headers because n8n already supports header authentication. It's a generic credential type. I'm picking header authentication, and I created a header for it. Let's click the pencil. So my name must be authorization, and then I have the word token followed by a space followed by my database token. So if I go to my Baserow instance, that's actually it's one of the most asked questions we get on our customer support channel. Where can I find my database tokens? So you click on the name of your workspace, you go to my settings, database tokens, and here you have it for the webinar. I created one for my database. It has read writes to all the tables for the AI agent. Come back to it later. And it can also create tasks. It can update tasks, and it can create a suggestion. So those are the rights for my token. If I check this token, I copy paste it here. Well, now I'm able to execute it. Something is wrong with my body validation. Provided value must be a list of values. Yeah, I see that I have so during a webinar, you think I'm going to use copy paste because I cannot make errors, but then you copy paste it wrong. So I had 2 times the square brackets for an array, and then it thinks, okay, it's an array inside an array. Okay, I fixed it. Now I'm in the success branch. And if I have a look here in my tasks, well, the employee onboarding for Michael Scott, here we go. The employee onboarding is scheduled. Now, this is for tasks I want to schedule through a webhook. Let's spice it up a little bit. And I want to schedule my daily tasks, like, for example, a backup of the IT system. I don't want to press a button every day, please schedule my task. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove my webhook here. So no longer using the webhook. And I'm going to add a manual trigger. Not trigger manually, sorry, on a schedule. And I want to run it daily. So each day at midnight, please start the backup of my IT system. Okay, I have the trigger here. I can connect it to here. And there are a lot of things I won't be needing anymore. So an assignee, a schedule date, and a note. Well, it will be the default assignee, the default note, and the schedule day for daily task. It's very simple. It's today because it's a daily task. Okay, I'm going to pause this. And now I need another Baserow node. I need to get my daily procedures. So I'm going to inject here a Baserow node. I want to have many rows. Do it with my Baserow account. And this Baserow account, it's my host. So for SaaS users, api.baserow.io, username and your password. So I want to have my database. Well, I'm going to use an expression and I'm going to paste in my database here. But you also can use the name. So it recognizes my database. I want to have procedures. Okay. And I'm going to add a filter here. The frequency, it's a single select field. So single select equal. And I need to add the value. And the value is not the text, but the ID associated with it. So if I have a look here, my procedures table, I have my single select and I'm using this ID, the ID representing daily. I can store it also in my configuration, but I want to move quickly. So did it hard coded in this node. And here I have a daily task, the IT system backup. Okay, I want to get all my template steps. So this is becoming invalid because my database ID is not in my next node. I need to go back a little bit. So let me go to my notes and copy paste it. So I'm going to replace this with my database ID. I'm going to do the same for my table. Going to do the same for my link to table field, but the template ID, actually, this will be JSON.id. So JSON is always referring to the previous node. Okay, let's execute it. And here I have the 5 steps for my IT system. And from here on, it's pretty much the same. I need to make some changes. So my default assignee, simply I will always use the default assignee. So I can make this much easier. Removing everything here and just referring to my default assignee. It's notice invalid syntax, but okay, let's do the drag and drop here. Okay, and just ensuring that I don't make any mistakes here with the parentheses. The deadline, well, I already mentioned date functions. So deadline can be very simple here, $now, format, my ISO format. And my node, well, will also be pretty forward. I will pick my default node here. So I executing it. I have my results, and actually from now on, not on weekends, merge it into one item, executing it again, and I have a success. So I scheduled the IT backup for today. Let's do a double check here. Today is the 9th of October, scheduled daily. I can see it on the ID numbers that it's the most recent scheduled item. Also in Baserow, if I check the history, well, I create today at this moment. Okay, yeah. We already covered a first nice automation. I spent a lot of time in this one because we really build it step by step. I want to go over all the steps, the interaction between Baserow and n8n. Let's speed it up a little bit and go to the second one, because until now, the only thing that we have done is manipulating data. But Baserow is an open source platform. It's API first, and n8n has a great HTTP request node. That means actually everything is possible. I can actually do everything. And what this tells me here is I have a number of staff members, and in my task table, I have a calendar showing all the tasks, but I want to have such a calendar for each staff member. And I can, of course, create it one by one. And it works for 13 staff members, but not if I have 1,000 staff members. So I create a second automation, and the automation is also available as a template. It's creating dynamic views, but I prepared everything in advance here. It's just a set of HTTP requests making calls to the Baserow API. But the first thing I need to do, and that's actually one of the reasons working on a local instance here, I need to set my Baserow credentials. Now, I'm working on the community edition of n8n, and Angel, correct me if I'm wrong, but in the enterprise edition, I have variables, and the variables allow me to store sensitive data like passwords that you don't want to see directly in your automation or make it available to others.
Well, the password example is more common in the credential manager in terms of like storing credentials. Those are stored separately than variables. Variables you can think of as values that allow you to essentially reuse a value from an internal n8n location. We are working on updating this. We just recently announced a new functionality called data tables, which allows you to store more types of variables and, well, more types of data in a simpler way within N8N. But yeah, so kind of two things. The first is the credential manager, great place to store passwords. They're encrypted within the platform itself. And then the variables, think of those as things like maybe you have an IP address that doesn't change very often, that's pointing to a certain location. You can map it to that variable. And then in the future, if that IP address needs to change, you can change it within the N8N UI without having to jump back into that workflow and having to like remap or change all these complicated things within the workflow. You can just change it in the variables section and boom, it's good to go across all of the workflows that it's being referenced across.
Yeah. Okay, great. So yeah, for now, what I did, I have a set node and I have an account in my workspace. I call this my token account. This is my token underscore local underscore password. That's the actual password. But before everyone is running to SAS and think, hey, I'm going to hack into this, it's running on my local machine. So as long as you don't own my machine, the password is actually useless, but it helps me running this automation. I have my user, I have a password, I have my API host set here. So my first HTTP request is creating a token, and I'm doing a call to this endpoint /API/user/token auth. I pass my email and password here, and if I execute it, it offers me a access token that is valid for 7 minutes. So have an eye on the clock. This demo needs to be completed within 7 minutes. Otherwise, it simply expires. So here I have settings for a lot of tables and fields using in the automation. Actually, it's a task table and the staff table I'm using, but I offer more general names because I want to offer it as a template. So in my Baserow node, I want to get all the records from my staff table. So I have all my staff members here. So I have Elizabeth, I have Leroy, I have Cinda, and so on. I have 13 records, all my staff members. And next is a call to the API. It's a post request where I want to create a new view for each staff member. So we discussed it in the aggregation node. I have like one item here becoming 13 items. So this node will be executed 13 times. It will be executed for each staff member. And if you wonder, hey, how do you know which endpoint to use? How do you know that I need to offer a name, a type, a filter type, the date field, and so on? Well, we have great documentation here, creating a table view. This is your endpoint. This is the payload, and this is the response you will be receiving. So I execute this node, and let's have a look what happens here. I have one calendar. Bam, I have 13 calendars. I create one for every member in my team. But every member has the same calendar and they don't have any colors. So those are the subsequent nodes here. I want to create a filter. Again, it's an API call. I have now the ID of my view /filters, and I set the type, a field, and a value. So if I execute it, it creates a filter based on my user. And you see the number of items change from team member to team member. Not everyone has the same items. Next, I want to have the color. Well, it's just an API call. Setting background colors, I have a background color. Next, I want to share my view, just an API call, making it public. And finally, I want to update URLs. Well, if I now go to my staff member table, I see that I have a link to the ICS file, so they can share it in their Outlook calendar. I have a link to the view. So for, let's have a look at Ali. Here we go. I have a link directly to the view of Ali. So that's an automation that I really liked it. It's just a chain of HTTP requests. And actually, if we go back to, let's say, 2023, it was the first no-code summit in France. I saw a presentation of N8N, and at that time, I think N8N was the only platform having a good native HTTP request node, which offers a lot of opportunities. I can integrate with any platform there are a lot of building blocks in n8n, but even if you don't have a building block for some exotic tool, well, with the HTTP request node, as long as it has an API, you can integrate with it, which is really a great thing. Okay.
I think of it as the Swiss Army knife of n8n.
Yeah, indeed. Okay, so AI is all around the place, so I think everyone is excited about it. I mentioned AI at the start, so I think a lot of people now are thinking, okay, you triggered us with AI, when are you going to show some AI? So yeah, I think the time has come to show some AI stuff, my process improvement. So this is my automation. First of all, a couple of things about AI. What does the AI agent in n8n requires? So maybe first of all, what is an AI agent? Let's start with that. Well, a very pure, simple definition, an AI agent is a piece of software that is able to execute tasks without your intervention autonomously. What does it need? Well, first of all, it needs an LLM, large
language model.
Language model, yeah. Okay, sorry.
I got you.
And I'm using actually the most famous one, I think, ChatGPT from OpenAI. But n8n, it has support for, I think, all the big language models. If I have a look here, language model, so we have Anthropic, Google Gemini, DeepSeek, Mistral with Le Chat, or Llama, of course, and OpenAI. So I configured my model here for GPT 4.1. So this is the LLM taking care of business. I also offer a number of tools, because if my AI agent doesn't know anything about my context, what is the feedback that is offered, what are the procedures, then it won't be able to produce any results. And yeah, I like to be in control. I use the structured output because I want the output to be useful to insert into a Baserow table. So I wanted to have the exact same structure as the Baserow API. So what I did is using the JSON schema that matches my feedback suggestions. So for example, I say, okay, I need a step number, I need a proposed action, and only choose from this list. I need a certain reasons, offer me feedback summary, and so on. So a pretty tight structure. Yeah, and from here on, it's creating records, and I update here to process my feedback. Okay, I have done the execution before. So yeah, something went wrong, and that's why I did it before. No idea what went wrong, but I always prepare things. So I executed it a couple of times before today. And the nice thing about n8n, Angel, it's also a trick you learned to me. It's a very nice button. It's in the upper right corner. I think you should make it bigger, more visible, because it really, I think it saves hours and hours of time. Because I was always running something from Baserow to simulate it again, but I can very simply copy to editor, and I have it here in my editor with all the data here. So let's go back here and yeah, maybe pick this execution, copy it to my editor. So what I'm doing, I'm passing all this information here, and it's using my model, it's using my tools, it takes my structured output into account to create my results. So let's have a look at this node. And first of, so here is where you do the prompting. I have a very simple user message. The user message say, okay, check the feedback on my current operation and suggest improvements. That's very general, do something. It didn't do anything. So what I did is actually what I can recommend everyone is clicking the tutorial button here on the top. I spent some time on it, but it was really worth it. And after that, you click on this button. There's a very nice guy, Angel, it's a colleague of you, Max.
Yeah, Max is great.
Yeah, he did a series of videos, 3 videos. The first one is pretty straightforward. What is AI? How does it work? But especially the third one, it's about what you call prompt engineering. And it offers a lot of tips and tricks on constructing your prompt. And so what I did first is wasting 2 hours of my time trying to get everything right without any instructions. Then I spent 20 minutes of my time watching his video and another 20 minutes implementing everything he said. And I had something that works, that is up and running. Okay, so what is important in your prompt? Well, it's about the system prompt over here. Very important, first of all, is setting the role. You say to the AI, hey, you are, in my case, a quality assurance manager at a digital services company. Oh, and my output is ready. Great. So what I want you to do is gathering the feedback and process it. I also say those are the goals. Identify unclear instructions, provide specific actionable recommendations. And then I offered instructions. I also learned, okay, really mention the tools you are using, refer to those tools with the exact same name, and offer it step-by-step instructions. Also, provide examples. I have my structured output, but I also want to provide examples here of previous output. And actually, I can, in the future, scale this up, I think, by creating a tool that has the previous results and refer to that tool as the example, because the more examples I provide, the stronger your agent is going to be, because it has more data to rely on.
Correct.
Yeah. And here in the end, also what I learned from Max is the notes. Always offer your agent a way out. If your agent is really confused, it doesn't know what to do, it will always try to please you. It will try to do something where it thinks it's helped you. And you say, okay, only recommend changes that are justified by the feedback. If you're not sure about anything, it's conflicting, suggest that it or note that it's conflicting, but leave it alone. And especially if you rely in your company on AI agents, be sure to build in those guardrails that you say to your AI agent. And if you have any doubts, if you're not sure, let me know that you are not sure. Then we can try to provide more examples and so on. But don't start making up things just to satisfy my needs.
Just to quickly build on that, yeah, I think that it makes a lot of sense to kind of approach it with a modular kind of a mental approach in terms of telling it essentially what you expect from it, the expected output format, and then the expected output format of null or failure. So it kind of comes back to having a good idea of good development practices, which is, early on in our logic, we want to fail as quickly as possible, or at least handle that failure. And it goes the same in prompting. You want to handle failures as quickly as possible within the prompt and set those kind of nebulous outputs for it, so it doesn't just hallucinate something for you. So yeah. Great call out, Frederick.
Okay, and now if I go to my improvement suggestions table, here I have all the suggestions. This table was empty. It's created by AI. AI went over everything. It has my step. It says, okay, this is a summary of the feedback. I propose that you split this step because of multiple users find it overwhelming. Okay, and it offers suggestion, okay, for a new step, this could be the name, this should be the checklist. It didn't offer a name for the second one, but it provided a checklist here. And I also use it in my application. So I'm getting lost in my tabs here, somewhere. Here it is. I have the procedure improvements. It was empty, and now I have all my suggestions here. So it says, okay, for the expense reimbursement, attach the receipts. My suggestion is that you update it. So update the title, make the checklist instead of scan each receipt using accepted file types like PDF, JPEG, PNG. Okay, yeah, I should accept that suggestion. So I updated my procedure. Great. This one, here you were hallucinating, reject. So AI is not completely in control. I have to review it, and either I accept or I reject. It's still my human decision on what I do, but AI is a great help in improving my procedures. And a last thing about the AI. I first wanted to use the AI agent to do the task scheduling, and it failed horribly. So the amount of time that I spent on getting the JavaScript function to avoid weekends is 1 minute. That's it, 1 minute in JavaScript. The amount of time I spent to get a prompt right to tell an AI agent that it should avoid scheduling on weekdays, I think I spent 3 hours and then I gave up. And actually, if you think about it, and that's actually a lesson for using AI within your organization. If it's a straightforward process from going from point A to B with logic, if this, then do that. If it's a pretty straightforward logic, don't use AI for it. Just make your automations. Automations are nowadays still valuable. For example, the task scheduling, it's very straightforward. This task, this assignee, this deadline, if it's on a Sunday, move it to the next Monday, insert in my database. There, you're done. You don't need any reasoning or logic, just a straightforward process. If you get a large amount of data, like feedback from employees or from a customer survey, or you have a lot of machine data and you say, okay, try to find a pattern in this, then AI is your friend. I can have tons of machine data and I can say, okay, try to determine the busiest moments, try to identify the highest risk of failure. And if you say, okay, I want to have a specific answer, the highest risk of failure, I want to have a number between 0 and 100, and I want to have a certain hour of the day, then AI will be a great assistant for you.
Real quick, Friedrich, if it's all right, I shared a link in the chat of a video that I created of how we use AI internally at N8N, and it dives into some very deep prompt management items. So I wanted to kind of share that and to kind of just to show like what's possible. Now within the video, I do use Notion, but I could absolutely see Baserow as a much better alternative for something like this project. So just wanted to call that out in case any of our viewers want to kind of take a deeper dive into like what's possible with AI. And then when you have the ability to connect to any database platform like Baserow, it becomes really easy to manage and store that data.
Yeah.
So
okay, great.
that was
Definitely.
the only plug.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna watch it one of these days. Okay. Well, actually, these were my demos. Like always, I prepared a number of slides that I completely forgot to show for my task generation, for the AI-driven improvements. So my AI lesson learned, I also told them to you. So we can go to the wrap-up. Saying, okay, Baserow, it's API first, means you can automate everything. Task scheduling, generating views, even AI tasks. Remember, for signing your automations with Baserow, 2 kinds of tokens. You want to manipulate data itself, use a database token, otherwise go for the JSON web token. Webhook trigger, yeah, you can trigger it from a Baserow application, which is great. And what I didn't show you is that you also can attach webhooks here. So I can add a webhook to either a table or to my application. And Baserow plus n8n, everything I showed you today is from my local machine. So the only reason I need an internet connection is for the live stream of this webinar. So you can self-host them. You are completely in control of your own data, of your own automations. And yeah, they work very nice together.
Great. Thanks a lot, Fredrik. You put a lot of work in this. So, you know, it might be a little bit overwhelming for some of the Baserow users that have not used n8n, right? So it's going to be, it's available as a template as a node in n8n. Now, if you say, hey, you know, I like the output of this. So, you know, I do have standard operating procedure. I want things to be scheduled automatically. I want to eliminate some of the repetitive work. Then, and this thing with n8n is a little bit above your head. You can always reach out to us, right? We have, Fredrik is actually doing some projects and some partners are doing projects. You know, Angel, you probably have some n8n partners in your landscape of around n8n that can help on that, right? So because obviously for some users it might be a bridge too far to do it themselves. So but even then, you know, if you use us, or if you use a partner of n8n, the speed with which you actually get a solution is quite impressive, right? We typically talk in our projects, we talk about maybe between 10 and 15 man days, right, of work, right, that for a specific solution, whereby you build a solution which is a combination of a database, a front-end application, and some automations, right? So it's actually really not a big IT project or custom software development project that you would be facing. That said, Angel, thank you. I think we answered pretty much all the questions. I'm just having a last check if there's something that is not answered. I think there was just one question which was related if webhooks is the only way to integrate Baserow with n8n. So okay, I see you answered that one. You can also schedule tasks that trigger the manual. Okay, good. Yeah, you actually showed that, Frederick. So that is clear. Yeah, if you're interested, for those who don't know Baserow, feel free, you know, look on our website. You can sign up for free. Vice versa, same on n8n, which is great. And then this webinar has been recorded, so everybody who has subscribed will get the recordings. And then yeah, we'll see you around, hopefully with the project, hopefully some nodes. Angel, thanks a lot for making this possible as well on your side. Really appreciate, and wishing everybody good building with these no-code tools. Thank you so much, and thanks, Frederick, as well, for your work. Thank you.
A pleasure. Thank you all.
Bye-bye.